Evening is in full swing at the Korean restaurant Arirang. Every table is occupied, and the air is filled with the delicious aroma of grilled meats and traditional soups. The music plays softly, almost drowning out the sounds of guests in the kitchen. Waitress Mira has been working for 6 hours straight. Her legs are tired, but she continues to move quickly and confidently. She currently holds a large round tray filled with clay pots of hot soup. She stares ahead, trying not to trip or spill the soup. At that moment, the front door opens, and a group of men enters the restaurant. There are about 10 of them. They don't make any noise, don't laugh, but their appearance immediately attracts everyone's attention. The guests at the tables begin whispering, and some fall silent completely. Leading the group is a man in a smart dark suit. He's John Ji-hoon. He's not tall, but his posture and demeanor immediately mark him as the leader. His hair is neatly styled, and his face expresses calm confidence. He looks straight ahead, his gaze directed toward the reserved table in the far corner of the room. His companions are dressed in similar business suits. They walk in a tight group, forming a living corridor around their leader. They converse among themselves in quiet, calm voices, discussing important matters. Mira slows momentarily upon noticing them. Something in their demeanor suggests these are no ordinary customers, but she has no time to think. The tray is heavy, and the hot soup could cool if she hesitates. Taking a deep breath, she continues on to table number 5, where guests are already waiting. Mira approaches her table, deftly maneuvering between the empty seats. She needs to pass through the hall's central aisle. Just then, Ji-hoon's group stops. They reach their destination, but stop not at the table, but right in the middle of the aisle, completely blocking it. Ji-hoon stands with his back to Mira. He's discussing something with his assistant, gesturing with his hand. He seems completely immersed in the conversation and oblivious to everything around him. Mira comes very close and says politely, "Excuse me, please allow me to pass." Her voice is calm, although her arms are already starting to tire from the heavy tray. Ji-hoon doesn't answer. He doesn't even turn around. It seems he simply doesn't hear her. His companions glance at her briefly, but none of them move. They wait for their boss to finish the conversation. Mira feels the warmth from the soup begin to burn her palms. She realizes she can't stand there for much longer. The soup will get cold, and the guests at table 5 will start to fidget. She tries again, a little louder this time. "Sir, get point really must go." Again, no reaction. Ji-hoon continues talking to his assistant, completely ignoring her presence. There's no anger or arrogance in his demeanor, only a complete indifference to what's going on around him. This indifference offends Mira more than outright rudeness. Mira's patience is wearing thin. She's been a waitress for 3 years and is accustomed to varying customer attitudes. But this is the first time she's encountered such open disrespect for her work. Her pride, always carefully concealed, flares up brightly. She takes a step forward, closing the distance between them to a minimum. Her voice becomes firm and clear as she says, "Master." This time, Ji-hoon turns around. His dark eyes slowly lower to her. There's no anger or interest in his gaze, only icy indifference. Mira holds his gaze, not looking away. "I asked you politely twice. If you don't move on your own, I'll have to move you." The room falls silent. Even his men freeze, unable to believe their ears. A mixture of astonishment and anticipation crosses their faces. No one ever speaks to their boss in such a tone. The corner of Ji-hoon's lips twitches slightly. It's not a smile, more like a hint of disdainful curiosity. He turns his whole body toward her, his gaze now completely on her. "Are you going to move me?" His voice is quiet, but every sound in it seems wrapped in steel. He takes a step forward, not to give way, but to close the distance to a minimum. His hand reaches out, perhaps to push her away. This is exactly what Mira is waiting for. Her instinct, honed by years of training, kicks in instantly. Her body remembers every movement. She doesn't retreat. Instead, she takes a short step forward. Her free hand instantly grabs his wrist. She uses his weight and momentum against him. Ji-hoon, not expecting any resistance, loses his balance. He's thrown sideways and stumbles into a nearby chair, barely able to stay on his feet. Everything happens so quickly that no one has time to react. Mira, as if nothing had happened, straightens the tray, on which not a single bowl has moved. A deathly silence reigns in the room. Only the quiet hiss of the kitchen hood can be heard. Jihoon's bodyguards freeze in shock. Their hands freeze in midair, just before they can reach their contacts. Their mouths hang slightly open. They see the impossible before them. Their untouchable boss has just been tossed aside by a frail-looking waitress. Jihoon himself slowly straightens up. He straightens his jacket, his movements sharp and angular. There's no anger or embarrassment on his face. His perfect mask of control has cracked, but beneath it, not malice, but something else, a stunning, searing amazement, is revealed. He looks at Mira as if he's seeing her for the first time. He looks at the girl, who didn't flinch, didn't run away, and didn't apologize. She simply stood there for a second, making sure he wasn't bothering her anymore, and then, without saying a word, moved on to her table. Jihoon slowly runs his hand over her wrist, where the traces of her grip are still visible. His gaze, heavy and intense, never leaves Mira as she does her work. It seems he's not even breathing. His assistant approaches cautiously. "Boss, is everything okay?" Jihoon doesn't answer. He ignores him, just as he's ignored everyone before. His entire world has narrowed to a single point, this brash waitress with the wrestler's arms. Finally, when Mira disappears into the kitchen, he exhales slowly. He turns, and without a word, heads for the exit. His men, still in shock, follow him silently. At the threshold, he pauses for a moment and takes one last look at the kitchen door. His lips move again, but this time his eyes blaze with genuine, lively interest. "See you soon," he says quietly to himself, his voice not a threat, but a promise. Then he steps out into the street, leaving behind the deathly silence of the restaurant and the sense of an approaching storm. 3 days pass. The evening at the restaurant is once again like all the previous ones. Mira works, trying to forget the unpleasant incident. She delivers orders, smiles at the guests, but the tension remains inside. Suddenly the door opens. This time, everything is different. The restaurant isn't being entered, it's being filled. One by one, men enter the hall. Lots of men. They don't wear suits, but rather simple but comfortable clothes. They are all athletically built, with serious expressions. They silently take up positions along the walls, blocking all exits. The guests freeze. Some stop eating. Others glance around nervously. The restaurant owner looks frightened, but hesitates to approach. The last to enter is John Jihoon. He's wearing a dark jacket and trousers. His face is calm, but his eyes are scanning the room. He walks to the center and stops. Mira freezes, holding the empty tray. She realizes this is all for her. Her heart starts beating faster, but she tries to remain calm. Jihoon slowly approaches Mira, his footsteps echoing loudly in the quiet hall. He stops 2 meters away from her. "We meet again," he says, his voice even, emotionless. Mira doesn't turn away. She grips the edge of the tray tighter. "You've proven yourself a strong fighter," he continues. "I have a proposition for you." He pauses, letting the words sink in. "Fight my fighters. If you defeat them all, you'll get a job with me. A good job with decent pay." He glances at his men. There are about 30 of them. They all look at Mira. "If you lose..." He doesn't finish the sentence, but the meaning is clear. Mira feels a chill run through her body, but she lifts her head higher. The first fighter steps forward. He's tall and muscular. Mira places the tray on the nearest table. She doesn't want to fight, but she has no choice. She takes a fighting stance. The first fight goes quickly. Mira uses her technique. She deftly dodges and uses her opponent's strength against him. Within a minute, he's on the floor. The second fighter proves more cunning. He tries to grab her. Mira feels her strength begin to dwindle. She wins, but her breathing becomes heavier. Third, fourth, fifth, the fighters take turns, some stronger, some faster. Mira uses all her knowledge and skills. Her body screams with exhaustion, but she continues. By the 10th opponent, her hands are shaking. She can feel every muscle. Her uniform is wet with sweat. Her hair is stuck to her forehead. Mira moves more slowly toward the 15th fighter. Her reaction's slow. One of the blows hits her shoulder. Pain shoots through her body. But she grits her teeth. She recalls her training sessions. She remembers her trainer saying, "Pain is just a sensation. Fatigue is just a feeling. You can do more." 20th fighter, 25th. She's no longer counting. Her world has narrowed to one opponent at a time. Dodge, grab, throw, again and again. When the last fighter falls, Mira stands with her hands on her knees. She's breathing as if she's run a marathon. Her whole body aches. She can barely stand. The hall is completely silent. Even Jihoon's fighters look at her with new respect. Jihoon claps slowly, the sound of his applause loud in the silence. "Impressive," he says. "You've passed the test. You can come to work tomorrow. The pay is 5 times what it is here." Mira slowly straightens up. Her face is pale with fatigue, but her eyes are shining. "No," she says quietly, but clearly. Jihoon frowns. "What? No! I won't work for you." Her voice grows stronger. "You're a rude person. You've shown disrespect for me and this place. Money won't fix that." She looks him straight in the eyes, even though every movement hurts. "I don't want anything to do with you. No work." A shadow of irritation appeared on Jihoon's face. He wasn't used to being rejected. "Are you sure?" His voice turns dangerous. "Is this your last answer?" Mira nods. "Yes, my final answer." He looks at her for another moment, then turns abruptly and leaves. His soldiers follow him silently. The next day, when Mira comes to work, the restaurant owner greets her with a sad face. "Mira." He doesn't look her in the eye. "I have to fire you." She freezes. "Why? What happened?" "An inspection from the health department, tax inspectors, the fire department, all in one day." He sighs heavily. "They found a lot of violations. A lot. The restaurant could be closed." Mira understands. This is his revenge. "They told me straight out, as long as you work here, the restaurant will be in trouble." The owner avoids her gaze. "Sorry, Mira, I have a family. I can't take any risks." She nods silently. She gathers her things from the locker room and goes outside. The sun is shining brightly, but her soul is cold. She is out of work, but she doesn't feel defeated. Her pride remains. The week passes slowly. Mira wakes up in her small apartment, and the first thing she sees is a stack of bills on the table. She'd been putting them aside, hoping to find a new job quickly, but nothing's working out. She turns on her phone and sees new messages. The first is from the bank. She's overdue on her student loan. The amount of the fine makes her choke. The second message is from her landlady. The rent is going up next month. Mira gets up and makes a simple breakfast, rice and scrambled eggs. She has no money for anything better. She counts her remaining money. It will last her another week if she eats only rice and noodles. She goes looking for work. First, at the cafe across the street. The owner shakes his head, no openings. Then at the supermarket, only for the night shift, but she has no experience. She returns home tired that evening. A new letter awaits her on the desk. It's a fine from the city authorities. She's accused of disturbing the peace during the incident at the restaurant. The fine is equal to 3 months' wages. Mira sits down on the floor and covers her face with her hands. She feels tears welling up in her eyes, but she doesn't let them fall. She's never been so close to despair. She opens the fridge. There's only a bag of rice and some vegetables. There's no money for next month. The fines are mounting. There's no work. At night, she can't sleep. She lies there and stares at the ceiling, running through all the possible options in her head. There are fewer and fewer of them left. 2 more days pass. Mira sells her last valuables, her tablet and good sneakers. But the money only covers part of the fine. She sits on the bed and looks at the business card. A simple black card with the name John Jihoon and a phone number. He left it the day he offered her the job. Her hands are shaking. She remembers her words. "I won't work with a rude person." And now she has to ask him for help. She dials the number. Her heart is pounding. She hears long beeps. "Hello?" His voice is calm and cold. Mira closes her eyes. "It's Mira, from the restaurant. I know who you are." He interrupts. What do you want? She takes a deep breath. I changed my mind. About work. There's silence on the other end of the line. Then he says, come tomorrow at 10 in the morning. We'll send you the address. He hangs up without waiting for an answer. Mira sits with the phone in her hand, feeling a burning sensation of shame. The next morning, Mira arrives at the address given. It's a tall office building in the city center. She's shown to an office on the top floor. Jihoon's office is large, with panoramic windows. He sits at a glass desk, studying documents. Without looking at her, he gestures to a chair in front of the desk. Sit down, he says. Mira sits down, trying to look confident. He puts the documents down and looks at her. You want to work for me, but the conditions are different now. He takes a contract out of his desk. You'll earn 3 times what you'd earn in a restaurant. But, he pauses, you obey my rules. No questions, no objections. He lists the conditions. Work at any time of day. Complete obedience. No personal relationships with other employees. She cannot discuss her work with anyone. If you break any of the rules... His gaze hardens. The consequences will be severe. Do you understand? Mira nods. She has no choice. He hands her a pen. Sign. Her hand trembles as she signs. She feels like she's selling out her freedom. 3 days pass. Mira is sitting in the car next to Jihoon. They are on their way to a meeting. Negotiations with a rival gang. Your job today is to remain silent and watch, Jihoon says, not looking at her. Remember everything you see. They arrive at an abandoned warehouse. 5 men emerge from another car. Their leader, a man with a scar on his face, approaches. Jihoon, he nods. Did you bring a new toy? Mira feels her fists clench, but she remembers the order to remain silent. The negotiations are tense. They argue over territorial boundaries. The voices grow louder. The scarred man suddenly grabs a weapon. Your toy seems nervous, he says, looking at Mira. Jihoon is calm. She's here to study. But the situation is getting out of control. The scarred ones surround them. There are only 3 of them, Jihoon, Mira, and 1 bodyguard. Everything happens in an instant. One of the men makes a sharp movement toward Jihoon. Mira acts on instinct. She lunges forward and pushes Jihoon aside. At the same time, she delivers a swift kick to the attacker's arm. The weapon flies out and falls to the floor. For a second, everyone freezes. Mira takes advantage of the pause. She takes a position between Jihoon and the attackers. Enough, says the man with the scar. He looks at Mira with new interest. You've found yourself more than just a toy, Jihoon. Jihoon slowly stands up. His clothes are covered in dust, but he's unharmed. It seems the negotiations are over, he says coldly. They return to the car. They get in silently. Only when they drive away does Jihoon turn to Mira. You could have gotten shot, he says. You could have been shot, she replies. He looks at her for a long moment. I didn't ask you to save me. I know, Mira says. It was instinct. That evening, Jihoon calls Mira into his office. Sit down. He points to a chair. She sits down, feeling tired. The past events are hard on her. Why did you do this? He asks. You hate me. Mira shrugs. It's my job. I'm your bodyguard. He shakes his head. No. You did that before you became my bodyguard. At the restaurant. You could have just left. She remains silent, not knowing what to answer. You're an interesting person, Mira, he says unexpectedly. Most people in your place would have given up long ago. He stands up and walks to the window. I'll give you a choice. You can leave, right now. I'll cancel the contract, or... He turns. You can stay, but it'll be difficult. Mira looks at him. She still feels hurt about everything that happened, but she sees more than just coldness in his eyes. There's something else. Respect? Interest? I'm staying, she says quietly. He nods, as if he'd been expecting this answer. Tomorrow at 7 in the morning. Don't be late. As she leaves the office, her thoughts are jumbled. She's still angry with him, but now something else is stirring in her heart. Curiosity. Who is this man really? And why is he so interested in her? And in the office, Ji-hoon stares at the closed door. For the first time in years, he meets someone who isn't afraid of him and is willing to stand up to him. It's a new feeling, and he doesn't entirely dislike it. A new week of work begins. Ji-hoon appoints Mira as his personal bodyguard. But it's not an easy job. He seems constantly looking for ways to test her. He gives her orders not to let anyone into his office during an important meeting. 15 minutes later, he tries to enter with another man. "Let me in," he says curtly. "No." Mira replies just as curtly. "You told me not to let anyone in. That includes you." He looks at her with a smirk. His companion looks shocked, but Ji-hoon simply turns and leaves. The next day, he orders her to wear his jacket all day. It's humiliating, like being a servant. But she silently obeys. She wears the jacket without showing her feelings. In the evening, he tests her vigilance. He discreetly adds salt to her water. Mira notices, but says nothing. She simply pours out the water and refills it. "You're not going to complain?" he asks. "No," she replies. "It's a test. I understand that." Every day is a new test. He tries to irritate her. But Mira remains calm. She understands it's a game. And she doesn't intend to lose. Several days of constant testing pass. Mira grows tired of these games. She decides to go on the offensive. She watches Ji-hoon closely. His habits. What irritates him? And she finds his weak spot. One morning, she arrives earlier than usual. She rearranges the furniture in his office. She knows he hates having his order disturbed. Ji-hoon enters the office and freezes. His face darkens. "Who did this?" he asks coldly. "I did," Mira answers calmly. "The old setup wasn't safe. Now I have a better view." He can't say anything. She's right from a professional point of view. Another time, she changes his route without warning. He gets angry. But she explains. "There were suspicious cars on the old route. I couldn't risk it." She always finds good reasons. She uses his own rules against him. Gradually, Ji-hoon begins to understand that she's more than just a bodyguard. She thinks, she anticipates danger, and she's not afraid of him. One evening, Mira notices something strange. She and Ji-hoon are returning from a meeting. Information about their movements somehow leaks to their competitors. "Someone is betraying us," she tells Ji-hoon. He frowns. "Do you have proof?" "Not yet, but I'll find it." Mira begins to closely observe everyone in the office. She notices small details. One of the security guards looks at his phone too often. Another always turns away when talking on the phone. She makes a list of suspicious people, but there is no evidence. One day, she sees one of Ji-hoon's most trusted assistants talking to a stranger. She discreetly takes a photo of them. Later, she shows the photo to Ji-hoon. "That's my cousin," he says, looking at the photo. "Check him out," Mira insists. "Trust, but verify." Ji-hoon doesn't want to believe he could be betrayed, but he orders everyone to be checked, including his brother. 2 days later, something unexpected happens. Mira and Ji-hoon are driving to an important meeting. Suddenly, their car is surrounded. "It's a trap," Mira says quietly. She acts quickly, she turns the car sharply, and drives down the alley. The chase continues. "Where are we going?" Ji-hoon asks. "To a safe place," she replies. She brings him to a small apartment on the outskirts of the city. It belongs to a friend of hers who is away on a business trip. The apartment is modest but clean. It's nothing like Ji-hoon's luxurious apartment. "We have to stay here," Mira says, "until I figure out who the traitor is." Ji-hoon is unhappy. He's not used to these conditions, but he has no choice. They spend the entire day in the apartment. Mira establishes contact with her people. Ji-hoon works on his laptop. In the evening, they are left alone in the small apartment. For the first time, they are in such a confined space without security or assistance. Night finds them in their small apartment. Mira cooks dinner, plain rice with vegetables. Ji-hoon initially refuses to eat, but eventually agrees. "You can cook," he remarks. "I've had to," she replies shortly. After dinner, they sit in the living room. The silence becomes awkward. "Why did you start wrestling?" Ji-hoon asks unexpectedly. Mira looks at him in surprise. My father was a coach. He taught me from childhood. She tells him about her past life, about training, about dreams of becoming a champion, about the injury that ended her career. Why did you? She hesitates to finish the question. Why did I become who I became? He finishes for her. He tells her about his childhood, about how his family lost everything, how he had to take responsibility for his younger sister, how he built his business from scratch. Sometimes we have no choice, he says. We just do what we have to. This is the first time they speak like ordinary people, without masks, without roles. In the morning, Mira receives information. The traitor has been found. It really was Jihoon's cousin. What are we going to do? She asks. Jihoon looks tired. I have to figure this out. But the situation is complicated. They realize that behind the betrayal lies a powerful force, a more dangerous enemy. We can't do this alone, Mira says. We need to work together. Jihoon resists at first. He's used to going it alone, but he realizes she's right. They make a plan. Together. Mira uses her observation skills. Jihoon uses his connections and resources. For the first time, they work as a real team. They complement each other. His composure and her intuition, his experience and her fresh perspective. They find a common enemy, Jihoon's former partner, who wants to take over his business. So, a temporary truce? Mira asks. A temporary truce, Jihoon agrees. But in his eyes, she sees more than just agreement. She sees respect, and perhaps something more. They leave the apartment together, ready for another battle, but now they fight shoulder to shoulder. The sun is just beginning to set when Mira emerges from the store with a few small purchases. It's her day off, and she's enjoying a rare moment of freedom. She's crossing the street, heading to her car, when suddenly a black van pulls up behind her. The van door bursts open, and 3 burly men leap out. Mira immediately realizes what's happening. She drops the bags and assumes a fighting stance, but there are too many opponents. One of the men shocks her with a stun gun. Mira's body is pierced by pain, and she falls to the asphalt. She tries to resist, but her strength quickly fails. The men grab her and drag her into the van. The door slams shut. It's dark and stuffy inside. Mira feels the van begin to move. Her hands and feet are bound. Her mouth is taped. She tries to breathe evenly, remaining calm. She realizes this is the work of Jihoon's enemies. They kidnapped her to get to him. Mira closes her eyes and begins to plan her escape. She listens carefully to the sounds outside, trying to determine the direction of travel. After a while, the van stops. The door opens, and she's pulled out. They're standing in front of an old, abandoned warehouse. The men roughly push her inside. The warehouse smells of dust and dampness. She's tied to a chair in the middle of the spacious room. One of her captors removes the tape from her mouth. You can scream or not, but no one will hear you, he says with a grin. Mira looks at him silently. She doesn't show her fear. Instead, she scans the room, looking for weak points and possible escape routes. One of the kidnappers takes out his phone and starts filming. Smile for the camera, beautiful. Your boss is going to get this video. Mira maintains a calm expression. She knows Jihoon won't abandon her, but most of all, she relies on herself. She slowly works the ropes, trying to loosen the knots. Hours pass. It's getting dark. The kidnappers are drinking beer and playing cards. They don't pay much attention to her, thinking the bound woman poses no threat. That's their mistake. Mira continues to work the ropes. Her wrists ache from the constant friction, but she doesn't stop. She knows this is her only chance. Jihoon is in his office when the video arrives. His face turns stony as he watches Mira sit tied up in a chair, his eyes blazing with a cold fire. He immediately gathers all his trusted men. Find her! Immediately! His voice is quiet, but there is steel in it. He personally leads the search. They check every security camera along the route from the store to the abduction site. Jihoon stays awake all night, monitoring every movement. In the morning, they find the van. It's abandoned on the outskirts of town. Jihoon examines the vehicle, his eyes taking in every detail. He finds a small earring of Mira's on the floor of the van. They're in a warehouse in the industrial area, he tells his assistant. Get your men ready. His men try to dissuade him. Boss, this could be a trap. Better send someone else. But Jihoon doesn't listen. I'm going on my own. He checks his weapon. His movements are precise and measured. The same fury burns in his eyes as the night he first met Mira. But now this fury is directed at those who dared touch what belongs to him. He gathers a small group of his most loyal fighters. We're going after her. No negotiations. No compromises. Before leaving, he closes his eyes for a moment. An image of Mira flashes through his mind. Her stubborn gaze, her strong hands, her courage. He can't let anything happen to her. They set off in 3 cars. Jihoon is in the first. His face is inscrutable, but his fingers grip the butt of his gun until his knuckles are white. The vehicles stop a kilometer from the warehouse. Jihoon and his men approach on foot, using cover. The night and fog work to their advantage. Jihoon scans the warehouse through binoculars. He sees 3 people outside. There must be several more inside. Surround, he orders quietly. His men begin to take up positions. Meanwhile, inside the warehouse, Mira is almost free of her bonds. She waits for the right moment. Her captors begin preparing to leave, realizing the location may have been discovered. Suddenly, gunshots ring out from outside. Jihoon and his men burst into the warehouse. Mira takes advantage of the confusion. She finally frees herself from the ropes and rushes for the exit. But one of the kidnappers notices her movement. A shootout breaks out. Mira seeks cover. She sees Jihoon moving toward her, firing back at the attackers. Suddenly, one of the kidnappers takes aim at Mira. Jihoon sees this and rushes forward, shielding her with his body. A shot rings out. Jihoon drops to one knee, but continues firing. His men surround them, creating a human shield. Mira grabs Jihoon. She sees a bloodstain on his shoulder. Her heart clenches with fear, but she remains calm. We have to get out of here, she says, supporting him. They fight their way to the vehicles, covered by his men. Jihoon, though wounded, continues to give orders. His voice remains firm. They return to the safe house. Mira lays Jihoon down on the bed and begins treating the wound. The bullet passed through, but there's significant blood loss. Her hands tremble as she cuts his clothes. She sees the wound and feels a lump in her throat. Fool, she whispers. Why did you do this? Jihoon smiles weakly. I couldn't let them hurt you. Mira works quickly and professionally. She cleans the wound, stops the bleeding, and applies a bandage. Her movements are confident. Years of athletic training have taught her the basics of first aid. She stays with him all night, changing his bandages, giving him water, and monitoring his temperature. Jihoon sometimes drifts off, sometimes wakes up. One night he wakes up from a nightmare. Peace, he calls. I'm here, she replies, taking his hand. He looks at her with a bleary gaze. Are you okay? Yes, she smiles. Thanks to you. He falls asleep again, still holding her hand. Mira doesn't take her hand away. She sits next to him, watching his sleeping face. For the first time, he looks vulnerable. In the morning, his condition improves. Mira prepares him some food, simple soup and rice porridge. Jihoon initially resists, but eventually eats it all. You're a good nurse, he remarks. You're a terrible patient, she retorts. They both smile. There's a lightness between them that's never been there before. 3 days pass. Jihoon's wound begins to heal. He can now sit up and even walk around the room a little. That evening, Mira helps him change his bandage. Her fingers gently touch his skin. She feels the scars of old wounds, evidence of his dangerous life. It was a long time ago, he says, noticing her gaze. You could have chosen a safer job, she says quietly. He looks at her. And you? You could work in a regular restaurant. Their gazes meet. Tension hangs in the air. Mira feels her heart begin to beat faster. Her hand is still on his shoulder. Jihoon slowly lifts his hand and covers it with his own. His touch is warm and unexpectedly gentle. Mira freezes. She sees something new in his eyes, something other than the usual coldness and calculation. It's something that both frightens and draws her in. They sit like that for several minutes. No one says a word. The touch speaks for them. Then Mira slowly removes her hand. You need to rest, she says, breaking the moment. Ji-hoon nods, but his gaze says that this moment has changed something between them forever. The next morning, Ji-hoon feels much better. He can walk without assistance. They have breakfast together at a small table. Mira is silent. She cannot forget his touch. She cannot forget how her heart responded to that touch. After breakfast, they sit on the small balcony. The sun is shining brightly, birds are singing in the nearby park. For a moment, they can imagine themselves as ordinary people, living ordinary lives. "Mira," Ji-hoon says quietly, "I have something to say." She looks at him, feeling uneasy. He pauses, choosing his words. "I hate that I like you." The words hang in the air. Mira looks at him with wide eyes. She didn't expect such a confession. "Me too," she replies quietly. "I hate that I like you." They look at each other. In their eyes is a mixture of fear, confusion, and something else. Something warm and alive that has broken through all barriers and defenses. Ji-hoon reaches out and gently touches her cheek. "What are we going to do about this?" Mira closes her eyes for a moment. "I don't know, but I know I can't ignore it." They sit together, holding hands. The sun warms their faces. For the first time in a long time, they both feel something real. Something terrifying and beautiful at the same time. Something worth risking for. Several weeks have passed since their return to the office. Ji-hoon's wound has almost healed, and their relationship is fragile and uncertain. They work together, but now an unspoken tension hangs between them. One morning, Ji-hoon calls Mira into his office. His face is serious, his eyes cold, just like in the first days of their acquaintance. A folder of documents lies on the desk in front of him. "Sit down," he says shortly. Mira sits up, feeling uneasy. She can see that something is wrong. "A major deal fell through last night," he begins. "Someone tipped off the competition about our plans." He opens the folder and pulls out several photographs. In them, Mira is talking to a man in dark clothing. The quality is poor, but her face is recognizable. "That was a week ago," Ji-hoon says. "Do you want to explain something?" Mira looks at the photographs with bewilderment. "I don't know this person. This isn't me." Ji-hoon looks at her carefully. "My people checked. It's you." At that moment, one of Ji-hoon's most trusted assistants, Minho, enters the office. He has worked with Ji-hoon for many years. "Boss, I found something else," Minho says. He places the phone on the table. "It's her phone. There are numbers in the call history linked to our competitors." Mira can't believe her ears. "It's not true. That's not my phone." But the evidence against her is compelling. Photos, phone records, testimonies, everything points to her. Ji-hoon leans back in his chair, his face unreadable. "What do you have to say for yourself?" Mira feels the ground slipping from under her feet. She looks at Ji-hoon, trying to find even a shred of trust in his eyes. "I didn't do anything," she says firmly. "Someone is setting me up." Minho shakes his head. "All the evidence is against you, Mira. Admit it, and the boss might show mercy." Mira stands up, her hands clenched into fists. "I won't admit to something I didn't do. If you don't believe me, then fire me." Ji-hoon silently studies her face. He sees anger in her eyes, but no guilt. He knows Mira is stubborn and straightforward, but not a liar. "Wait outside," he tells Minho. When they're alone, Ji-hoon approaches the window. "Why should I trust you?" he asks without turning around. Mira approaches him. "Because you know me. You know I wouldn't do something like that. Yes, I can be rude and stubborn, but I'm not a traitor." She turns to him. "You said yourself that you hate that you like me. Don't feelings mean anything?" Ji-hoon turns slowly. His eyes meet hers. "Feelings shouldn't interfere with business." "This isn't about business," Mira says. "This is about trust. And if you don't trust me, then everything that happened between us doesn't matter." She turns and walks towards the door. Her heart is broken, but she won't show it. Mira returns to her room and begins packing. She can't stay where they don't believe in her. Her hands shake as she puts her clothes in her bag. Suddenly, the door opens. Ji-hoon stands in the doorway. He looks at her bag, and his face darkens. "What are you doing?" he asks. "I'm leaving," she replies without looking at him. "You've made your choice." Jihoon comes closer. I didn't say you could leave. Mira finally looks at him. Tears well up in her eyes, but she doesn't let them fall. Do I need your permission to leave? I'm not your property. He takes her hand. His touch is warm and firm. I did my own research. Mira freezes. And? The evidence is too obvious, he says. Too perfect, as if someone had deliberately rigged it. He looks her straight in the eyes. I believe you. Those 3 words mean more to her than anything else. Mira feels like a weight has been lifted from her heart. Why? She whispers. Because I know you, he says simply. And because, he pauses, because my feelings for you are real, and real trust is built on feelings, not on evidence. He still holds her hand. Stay. Help me find the real traitor. They work together for the next few days. Jihoon and Mira vet every person in the organization. They operate covertly, pretending Mira is under house arrest. Gradually, they discover inconsistencies. Minho acts too confidently. He often disappears at odd hours and speaks on the phone in whispers. One evening, they follow him to an abandoned warehouse where Minho meets with people from a rival organization. Jihoon and Mira watch from cover. They overhear Minho discussing the details of the next deal. I've given you enough information, Minho says. Where's my money? One of the men laughs. You'll get your money when we take out Jihoon. Jihoon emerges from his hiding place, his face filled with cold fury. Those are your last words, Minho. Minho turns around, his face white with fear. Boss, I can explain. But Jihoon isn't listening anymore. His men surround the warehouse. A fight breaks out. Mira fights alongside Jihoon. They work as one, anticipating each other's moves. She protects his back and he protects hers. Eventually, Minho and his accomplices end up tied up on the floor. Jihoon approaches Minho. Why? He asks. His voice is quiet but full of pain. Minho laughs. You've become weak, Jihoon. Because of that girl. You only think about her and not about business. Jihoon looks at him with disdain. Take him away, he tells his men. When it's all over, Jihoon and Mira are left alone in the warehouse. He looks at her, his eyes filling with gratitude. Thank you, he says simply. They return to the office. Night has fallen, the city is illuminated. Jihoon and Mira stand on his office balcony, looking out over the city. After a long silence, Jihoon turns to her. Are you still my bodyguard? Mira looks at him. In his eyes, she sees not only respect, but something more. Something deep and real. No, she replies. I'm your partner. A smile plays on her lips. If you agree. Jihoon looks at her in surprise, then slowly smiles. It's a genuine, unrestrained smile, the first she's seen. Partner, he repeats, as if testing the word. I like the sound of it. He holds out his hand and she takes it, their fingers intertwined like 2 halves of a whole. So, partners, he says. On equal terms. Mira nods. On equal terms. They stand together, holding hands, looking out at the city stretching out before them. Their journey has been long and difficult, full of trials and pain, but now they have found in each other not only love, but also respect, trust, and an equal partnership. And at that moment, they both know that this is only the beginning of their real story. The morning begins not with an order, but with a joint discussion of the day's plans. Mira arrives in the office promptly at 9, but now, instead of standing against the wall awaiting instructions, she takes a seat at the same desk where Jihoon sits. I'm meeting Choi Minsu today, Jihoon says, handing her a folder. His people are showing up in our area more and more often. Mira studies the documents. Her gaze falls on the financial transaction report. Something's wrong here. Too many small transfers through different accounts. Jihoon nods approvingly. I noticed that too. Do you think they're laundering money? More like trial transfers, she replies, testing our vigilance. They look at each other, and understanding hangs in the air. Before, Jihoon made decisions alone. Now they analyze information together. Before the meeting, Mira checks the premise's security. She personally inspects every detail, from the ventilation to the evacuation routes. The guards, accustomed to taking orders, initially regard her with distrust, but her professional commands leave no doubt. "You're acting like a real professional," Ji-hoon remarks as he watches her work. "Because that's what I am," she answers calmly. Choi Min-soo arrives with 6 bodyguards. His gaze glides over Mira with mild disdain. "I didn't know you hired women for serious matters, Ji-hoon," he says, taking his seat. Mira doesn't blink. "Perhaps if you hired more women, your financial transactions wouldn't be so obvious." Min-soo freezes. "What do you mean?" "3 weeks ago, you started transferring small amounts through shell companies." Her voice is clear and confident. "Did you think we wouldn't notice?" Ji-hoon watches silently, letting her lead the conversation. He sees Min-soo's confidence fading. "You have no right," Min-soo begins. "She has every right," Ji-hoon interrupts. "She's my partner, and if you want to do business with me, you'll talk to her too." After the meeting, Ji-hoon stays with Mira in his office. "You are amazing," he says. "I was just doing my job." Mira shrugs, but satisfaction is visible in her eyes. They often stay up late discussing business. Tonight is no exception. City maps and financial reports lie on the table between them. "Min-soo will retreat," Ji-hoon says, studying the map. "But not for long." Mira nods, her gaze wandering over the photographs on the table. Among the business papers, she notices an old photo, Ji-hoon, about 10 years old, with his younger sister. "Is this your family?" she asks cautiously. Ji-hoon follows her gaze. His face softens. "Yes. This is Soyeon. She's currently studying abroad." He talks about his sister, how he raised her alone, how he worked day and night to give her an education. Mira listens, and for the first time, she sees him not just as a mafia leader, but as an ordinary person. "Why did you never tell me about her?" she asks. "In this world, weaknesses come at a high price," he replies quietly. "But with you, I can be myself." They talk until the morning, about childhood, about dreams, about what they could have been like in another life. A week later, news arrives. Soyeon is missing. She hasn't been to class for 3 days, and her phone isn't answering. Ji-hoon is furious. "It's Min-soo! He knew where to find her." Mira is already formulating a plan of action. "I'll contact our people in Europe. You call everyone here. We'll find her." She works tirelessly, coordinating searches between countries. Her composure and organization impress even Ji-hoon's seasoned fighters. "You know exactly what you're doing," one of them says, watching her place markers on the map. "I was taught by the best," she answers shortly, nodding towards Ji-hoon. 48 hours later, they find Soyeon. She's being held in a villa outside Paris. Ji-hoon is already preparing the plane, but Mira stops him. "It's a trap. Min-soo is waiting for you to come on your own." "But I can't leave her there." There was despair in his eyes. "You won't leave," Mira says firmly. "But we'll do it wisely." The rescue operation for Soyeon goes flawlessly. Mira's men act quickly and quietly, without making any unnecessary noise. When they return to Korea, Ji-hoon meets his sister at the airport. Soyeon, a fragile girl with intelligent eyes, looks at Mira with curiosity. "So you're the woman my brother told me about?" Mira smiles. "I hope nothing bad happens." "On the contrary." Soyeon hugs her. "Thank you for saving me." That evening, they dine together, for the first time as a family. Ji-hoon watches Mira and Soyeon laugh at a joke, and a new, unfamiliar feeling arises in his heart. Peace. After dinner, he finds Mira on the balcony. "Thank you," he says simply, "for everything." "You would do the same for me," she replies. He takes her hand. "I would have done more." Below, the city lives its own life. Lights flicker, cars drive by, people live. But here, on the balcony, are 2 of them. Partners not only in business, but also in life. "You know, I still hate that I like you," Ji-hoon says quietly. Mira smiles. "And I still hate that I like you, but I guess we'll have to accept it." Sunlight filters through the curtains in Ji-hoon's bedroom. Mira is the first to wake up, as always. She's used to getting up early, dating back to her days working at the restaurant. Carefully, so as not to wake Ji-hoon, she crawls out from under the covers and heads to the kitchen. Making breakfast has become their new ritual. Today, she's making tteokbokki. Ji-hoon once admitted it was his favorite dish since childhood. While she's stirring the sauce, she hears footsteps behind her. "You always get up so early." Ji-hoon's voice was still hoarse from sleep. He hugged her from behind, his lips brushing against her neck. Mira smiles. Someone has to make sure the big boss doesn't go hungry. They have breakfast together, discussing their plans for the day. This time has become sacred for them. No phones, no business conversations, just the two of them. "You have a meeting with your Japanese partners today," Mira reminds him, pouring him tea. "I've prepared a report on their latest operations." Ji-hoon looks at her with admiration. "How do you manage to do everything?" "When there is someone to try for," she answers simply. A surprise awaits them in the office. Sitting at the negotiating table is Jung Mino, Ji-hoon's former business partner, with whom they once started a business together. Their paths diverged many years ago, and not in the most pleasant way. "Ji-hoon," Mino stands up, smiling. "Long time no see. And who's this?" His gaze glides over Mira with undisguised interest. Mira senses tension in the air. She knows the history of their relationship. Mino betrayed Ji-hoon by luring away half the team. "Mino!" Ji-hoon maintains his cool calm. "What do you want?" "I just want to reconnect," Mino said, looking around the office. "I heard you have new partners, and not just in business." Mira decides to take matters into her own hands. "Mr. Chan, if you're here on business, I suggest we get to the point. Otherwise, we have a busy schedule." Mino raises his eyebrows. "Straightforward. I like it." He turns to Ji-hoon. "Does she always speak for you?" "When she speaks, I advise you to listen," Ji-hoon answers calmly. After Mino leaves, Ji-hoon looks worried. "He's up to something." Mira puts her hand on his shoulder. "Whatever he's up to, we can handle it. Together." The next few days bring disturbing news. Several small deals fall through for unknown reasons. Rumors begin to circulate that Ji-hoon's organization is losing influence. Mira conducts her own investigation. She discovers strange money transfers to the accounts of Mino's former employees. "He's poaching our people," she tells Ji-hoon, showing him the report. "Offering twice as much." Ji-hoon frowned. "We can't compete for money. Mino has new backers." "Money isn't the only way to keep people," Mira says thoughtfully. She recalls conversations with security guards, drivers, and accountants. They all stayed with Ji-hoon not only for the money, but out of respect and loyalty. She suggests holding a meeting with all employees, not a formal meeting at the office, but an informal dinner at one of their restaurants. Ji-hoon is hesitant at first, but agrees. "You know better how to talk to people." In the evening, the entire organization gathers at the restaurant, from senior executives to ordinary drivers. Mira personally greets everyone at the entrance, memorizing their names and positions. Once everyone is seated, Ji-hoon gives a short speech. He speaks not about business, but about loyalty, about family, about those who died defending the organization. Then Mira takes the floor. She hadn't prepared her speech. She spoke from the heart. "I didn't come here long ago." Her voice rings out clearly in the silence. "But I've learned to value each and every one of you. We may lose money, we may lose power, but as long as we're together, we're strong." After dinner, they are approached by the oldest member of the organization, Mr. Kim, who has been working with Ji-hoon from the very beginning. "You did the right thing," he tells Mira. "People need to be reminded what they're working for." The next morning, two men who were planning to go to Mino refuse his offer. Mino doesn't give up. He launches open warfare. His men attack Ji-hoon's warehouses, intercepting supplies. The situation escalates. Mira suggests an unconventional approach. "Let's meet him on neutral territory, unarmed, unguarded." Ji-hoon looks at her like she's crazy. "This is self-destruction." "No," Mira shakes her head. "This is a game of chess, and we have to make a move he doesn't expect." After much debate, Ji-hoon agrees. They arrange to meet in a public place, a tea house in the city center. Mino arrives with 4 bodyguards. Seeing Ji-hoon and Mira alone, he raises his eyebrows in surprise. "Brave," he notes. "Stupid, but brave." We're not here to play, Mino, Jihoon says. Tell me what you want. Everything you once took from me, Mino replies, his gaze filled with hatred. Mira watches silently, studying his behavior. She notices how his hands tremble, how he avoids direct eye contact. This isn't confidence, it's desperation. You're being used, Mino, she says quietly. Your new patrons are throwing you into battle first, saving their own strength. Mino flinches, and she knows she's hit the mark. After the meeting, Mira proposes a risky plan to find Mino's real owners and offer them a deal. They're using him as a battering ram, she explains. If we take out Mino, they'll find someone else. But if we offer them better terms, Jihoon understands her logic, but doesn't trust her opponents. They'll never make a deal. Everyone has a price, Mira says confidently. You just have to find it. She uses old connections no one knew about, friends from her sporting past, now working in various fields. A week later, she has a name. A powerful Chinese family from Hong Kong. They're losing interest in Mino, she tells Jihoon. His attacks are causing them more losses than profit. Jihoon looks at her with new respect. How did you know that? Mira smiles mysteriously. I have my own sources. Trust me. She makes an appointment with a family representative in Hong Kong. Jihoon insists she not go alone, but Mira is certain this must be her solo flight. The plane lands in Hong Kong. Mira is met by an elegant man in a suit and escorted to an office on the top floor of a skyscraper. Mr. Chen, the head of the family, turns out to be an elderly man with a piercing gaze. So, you are the woman who made Mino tremble with fear, he says, inviting her to sit. The negotiations last several hours. Mira speaks as an equal, showing neither fear nor uncertainty. She proposes a mutually beneficial partnership, bypassing Mino. Why should I trust you? Asks Mr. Chen. Because we offer stability, Mira replies, and Mino offers only chaos. In business, as in life, order always wins. When she leaves the office, she has a preliminary agreement. Mr. Chen gives them a week to prove their capabilities. Returning to the hotel, Mira notices she's being followed. She changes route, loses her trail in the crowd of tourists, but realizes Mino has learned of her visit. Jihoon meets her at the Seoul airport. Upon seeing her, he hugs her tightly, oblivious to everyone around him. Never fly alone again, he whispers. I can't survive another day like this. In the car, Mira explains the results of the negotiations. We have a chance, but we need to act quickly. Mino already knows about my trip. They head straight to the office, where an urgent message awaits them. Mino's men have kidnapped Mr. Kim. It's a declaration of war, Jihoon frowns. Mira is already formulating a plan. They're expecting us to go for a frontal attack, so we'll do it differently. She suggests splitting their forces. A small group pretends to prepare for an assault, while the two of them penetrate Mino's lair from the other side. Too dangerous, object the senior officers. Sometimes the most dangerous path is the safest one, Mira counters. Night falls on the city. While the main group distracts the main entrance, Jihoon and Mira infiltrate through the ventilation system. They find Mr. Kim in the basement. The old man is tied up, but not broken. I knew you would come, he smiles. Suddenly the lights come on. Mino stands in the doorway with armed men. Predictable, he says. I knew you'd try to play the hero. The situation seems hopeless, but Mira remains calm. Check your phone, Mino. I think you have an important message. Mino looks at his phone, his face turning white. His Hong Kong partners are terminating his contract. This is impossible, he mutters. In business, anything is possible, says Jihoon, especially when you have the right partners. Mino's men, seeing his defeat, begin to retreat. The strength drains from him, and he falls to his knees. The morning after their victory greets them with peace and quiet. They sit on the same balcony where they once confessed their feelings for each other. You changed everything, Jihoon says, holding her hand. Not just the business, but me too. Mira leans against his shoulder. We've changed each other, and that's good. Below, the city awakens. A new day begins. But now they see it with different eyes, not as a battlefield, but as a place of endless possibilities. I stopped hating that I like you, Ji-hoon says quietly. Mira smiles. And I'm just starting to love this feeling. Their lips meet in a tender kiss, full of promises of the future, a future they will build together. The 3 weeks following Mino's defeat pass surprisingly calmly. The organization is recovering, the new partners from Hong Kong are proving reliable, and the old employees, witnessing Ji-hoon and Mira's victory, are strengthened in their loyalty. But Mira can't shake off the feeling of unease. Things have become too quiet since the storm. She spends her evenings poring over reports, searching for hidden threats, and scrutinizing every minor transaction. You should be resting, Ji-hoon finds her in her office after midnight. There are no enemies, everything is calm. Too calm, she replies, putting the documents aside. In our world, silence always foretells a storm. He sits down next to her, his fingers gently smoothing the wrinkles on her forehead. Sometimes silence is just silence. Give yourself a break. She wants to believe him, but her instincts, honed by years of struggle, are unfathomable. Something is brewing. She can feel it in her bones. So-yeon visits them more and more often. The young woman quickly becomes attached to Mira, seeing her not only as her brother's partner, but also as a friend. Tell me how you and Ji-hoon met, she asks one evening, settling into a seat on the couch between them. Mira and Ji-hoon exchange glances. The full story of their introduction is clearly not suitable for the young student's ears. We worked together, Ji-hoon answers evasively. At the restaurant, Mira adds, a mischievous twinkle in her eyes. Your brother was acting not very politely. So-yeon bursts into laughter, and Ji-hoon looks at Mira with silent reproach. But there is no anger in his gaze, only warm tenderness. Later, walking So-yeon to the car, the girl hugs Mira. Thank you for making him happy. I've never seen him so alive. These words make Mira think. She looks at the city lights and realizes that her life is forever connected to this man and his family. The next morning, a stranger shows up at the office. He introduces himself as Detective Park, shows his ID, and asks for a private meeting. It's about your father, he says to Ji-hoon, but his gaze slides to Mira. Ji-hoon's father died 10 years ago under mysterious circumstances. The official version was an accident, but Ji-hoon always suspected something else. I've found new evidence. The detective places a folder on the table. Your father's death was not an accident. Mira watches Ji-hoon. His face turns stony. Only his fingers tremble slightly as he grips his pen. Who? The lonely word hangs in the air. The investigation is ongoing, the detective replies evasively. But there's one detail. A witness mentioned a woman, a former athlete. She was there that evening. An icy chill runs down Mira's spine. She sees Ji-hoon slowly turn toward her, a hint of doubt appearing in his eyes for the first time in months. A tense silence hangs in the office all day after the detective leaves. Ji-hoon avoids looking at Mira, answers monosyllabically, and withdraws into himself. In the evening, she finds him on that very balcony. Do you think it was me? She asks bluntly, not giving him the opportunity to hide behind false politeness. He doesn't answer right away, his fingers tightening on the railing. My father died when you were 17. You didn't even know we existed. But there is already doubt, she says quietly. And that's okay. We need to discuss it. He turns to her and she sees pain in his eyes. I don't want to believe it. But the detective said, I'll check it out, Mira interrupts. Give me 3 days. If this detective is real, he left traces. If not, then someone is playing against us again. Ji-hoon nods, and the wall between them crumbles slightly. But the crack is already there, and promises can't mend it. Mira begins her own investigation, using all her connections and all the skills she's acquired over months of working with Ji-hoon. Detective Pak turns out to be a frontman. His ID is a high-quality fake, and there's no information about him in the police database. But the most interesting part awaits her. Tracing the financial flows, she comes across a man from her past, the coach whose betrayal forced her to leave the sport. Kang Tae-shik, she whispers, looking at the photograph. What do you want from me? She finds him in a small apartment on the outskirts of Seoul. He turns pale when he sees her, I knew you'd come, he says, ushering her in. But I didn't mean to hurt you. I was forced to. Tong Tae-shik finds himself a pawn in someone else's game. He is blackmailed, threatened with his family, and forced to participate in a production with a detective. Who? Mira asks, but the coach doesn't know any names. He's been receiving calls from unknown numbers, and money has been transferred through fictitious accounts. She returns to Ji-hoon with evidence. He listens to her silently, his stony expression gradually losing its expression. I'm sorry, he says when she finishes. I shouldn't have doubted. You had a right, she replies. Love shouldn't be blind. We have to test each other, especially when things don't add up. They sit together in silence, and the silence is no longer tense, but peaceful. The crisis is over, and their trust in each other has only grown stronger. I love you, Ji-hoon suddenly says. And I will remember that, even when doubts come again. Mira takes his hand. I love you too, and I will always give you reasons to trust. Their investigation leads them to an unexpected conclusion. The money paid to the coach came from a foundation linked to the Chen family, their new partners in Hong Kong. But when Mira contacts Mr. Chen, he is genuinely surprised. These aren't our operations, he says, but I'll check. Maybe someone's using our name. A day later, a response arrives. The money was sent through a shell company registered in the Cayman Islands. The trail leads to Japan, to Ji-hoon's old enemy, the Yamaguchi clan. They never lost to us 5 years ago, Ji-hoon recalls. It looks like they've decided to come back. Mira is studying the Yamaguchi clan's dossier. They are known for their cunning and ability to exploit their opponent's weaknesses. A rift between her and Ji-hoon would be the perfect move for them. This time, they're proactive. Instead of waiting for the next attack, Ji-hoon and Mira travel to Tokyo themselves. The meeting takes place in a traditional Japanese restaurant. The head of the Yamaguchi clan, an elderly but energetic man, receives them with feigned politeness. We've heard of your successes, he says, sipping tea. Young, strong, but in our world, strength alone isn't enough. Mira answers him in Japanese, slightly surprising the old man. Strength without wisdom is like a sword without a hilt, but wisdom without strength is also useless. The negotiations last for hours. Yamaguchi tests their resolve, alternately threatening and proposing an alliance. But Ji-hoon and Mira stick together, their responses consistent and precise. Finally, the old man bows his head. You are worthy opponents. We are recalling our men. As they leave the restaurant, Ji-hoon looks at Mira with admiration. You never cease to amaze me. This is just the beginning, she smiles. There are many more surprises to come. Upon returning to Seoul, Mira makes a surprising decision. She wants to resume training and return to the sport, not as a wrestler, but as a coach. I want to open a school for children from poor families, she explains to Ji-hoon, so they can have the chance I never had. He supports her, providing funding and helping her find a location. The school opens in 2 months in the very neighborhood where Mira grew up. Not only children and their parents attended the opening, but also many from Ji-hoon's organization. Former fighters, accountants, drivers, everyone wants to support Mira's initiative. Old coach Kang Tae-shik, having atoned for his guilt by helping in the investigation, becomes one of the teachers. You made the right choice, he tells Mira. Sometimes our path leads us to where we are needed most. Months pass. Ji-hoon and Mira's lives take on a new rhythm. Between business and charity, between danger and tranquility, between passion and tenderness. They still face challenges. Competitors are always on the alert. Business demands attention, and the past sometimes comes back to haunt them. But now they face all challenges together. One evening, standing on the balcony and looking at the city lights, Ji-hoon hugs Mira. Do you remember how it all started? He asks. You, the waitress with the tray. Me, the man who stood in your way. Mira smiles. And now we're here, together. And we will be together forever, he says. Not because we have to, but because we want to. Their lips meet in a kiss that speaks louder than words, of struggle and peace, of strength and vulnerability, of the past and the future, of love that has been through fire and only grown stronger. Somewhere below, the city continues to live its life. But here, on the balcony, are the two of them. Two strong people who have found in each other not weakness, but support. And this is only the beginning of their story.